Well, we're done with our zero, and we're coming to the Bear Mountain Bridge, where we are going to cross the mighty Hudson River. And then have to climb up there. I don't know if it's just the wind, but it looks like the Hudson is flowing north. New York City's down that way. West Point is up that way. We did a full resupply during our zero, but everyone stops here. I wouldn't mind some milk. The Appalachian Deli Grill and pizza. And as we can see, there are already a group of hikers sitting here, and by the packs by the front door, 2 more inside, and 3 more right behind us. And here we are with Trekker and Julio.
Hey, how you doing? Good to you. Wow, you're making good time.
So I got about 2 miles to the campsite. Today has been kind of a rough day, which is surprising since yesterday was a zero. But since it was also a full resupply day, my pack is at its heaviest. And coming out of a town, we have had a lot of ascending to do. And I think my leg muscles are still fatigued from that descent off Bear Mountain. But anyway, it's going to be like a 14 and a half mile day if the campsite works out for us. It's a campsite that you have to reserve, and there's this couple, Trekker and Julio, who reserved a campsite, and they're allowed to have up to 6 people, so they said Viking and I could stay there, but we're not 100% sure there's a spot for a hammock. So if everything works out, I've got about 2 miles to go. If not, the next campsite is 8 miles. So we'll have to see what's in store. It's pretty cool today, temperature-wise, but it's also humid. So it's okay. It's going to get a little warmer tomorrow. And then Saturday and Sunday are going to be in the 90s again. So we'll see what happens then. So this is Dennytown Road, and there's a group campsite over there that we're not supposed to use, but that's where the porta potties are. And it's this little area that's right on the trail that we're supposed to use. And it's become a little tent city with my hammock in the back in the woods there. So this is where I camped last night. As I showed you last night, I was over there. Everybody's gone. I thought we were doing a 10-mile day today, so it's been kind of a lazy start. That's where the other campsite is that we're not supposed to use. Trail's over here. But turns out that there is a pizza place that apparently lets AT hikers camp out at their place. Hiker friendly, and so that's at 15.8, so that looks like what we're going to do. And so I'm at an 8 o'clock start. I think Viking already left at about 7:20, so I have to catch up to him eventually, maybe at lunch. Well, after a light rain most of last night, looks like the sun's coming out. It's a little bit warmer today. It's going to be like in the mid 80s, which wouldn't be so bad, except I think the humidity's up around 80%. And anytime the humidity gets up above, say about 60%, gets a little hard for your sweat to cool you off. And so you just end up sweating more. It's kind of a cascading problem. But overall, a nice day. New York has actually been pretty tough mileage-wise. There's the rocks are definitely not as hard as the last half of Pennsylvania, but one thing about New York is it's all ups and downs. You very seldom have a section where you're on a flat area and you can build up a little bit of speed. There were, especially in Maryland, but also even New Jersey and southern Pennsylvania, there were sections where it'd be relatively flat, kind of like this little section here, but sometimes for extended periods where you could get up like 3 miles an hour, maybe a little faster, and crank out some miles. But most of New York only has short sections like this, and then it's up and down and up and down over ridges. So you have to calculate miles differently in New York. I guess one thing I was reflecting on today was this backpacker saying, this hiking saying that you pack your anxieties. In other words, you know, everyone tries to reduce weight to a reasonable degree because every pound on your back makes things significantly harder. And some people, it's really hard to shed those pounds from their pack, and one of the biggest reasons are your anxieties, your fears. And I'd say for me, one of them is that on my hike 5 years ago, my sabbatical hike 5 years ago on the Tahoe Rim, I ran out of water on like day 2 or 3, and I was eating snow and packing snow into my bottle and sleeping with it to melt it a little bit, because I went with a no-cook hike. I wasn't bringing a stove on that hike, and so I couldn't melt snow for water. And you couldn't eat all the snow because some of it had this kind of pink algae, which is poisonous. And so ever since then, I'm afraid of running out of water, and I will overpack. I'll sometimes have 3 liters on me when it's not really necessary. Kind of a minimalist perspective on water is you pack 1 liter in your pack, 1 liter in your belly. Basically, every time you get to a water source, you drink a liter and you fill up your liter. Now, that's a little minimalist, especially if you were hiking in a dry area or late summer. But more people will do 2 liters. Every water source they'll fill up, you know, to the 2 liter mark. But I've been carrying that extra liter, which is, you know, a little over 2 pounds for every liter, 33.8 ounces. And so today I left camp with a little less than 2 liters, because I know in 5.8 miles or so I'm going to be getting to a lake. But even so, I kind of passed a couple streams and thought, oh, maybe I should fill up that extra liter. But I'm going to work on getting over that anxiety. so I can be a little lighter. I know 2 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but it does make a difference, and especially if you have other anxieties and you're carrying other little luxury items, the weight does add up. So we'll see how it goes. All right, after one of the hardest 15-mile days that I've experienced so far, we are behind Corrado's Pizzeria and Gelateria and a deli that's letting us camp back here. Vikings over here, Trekker and Julio are there, and I've got my hammock way in the back in the bushes back there near the swamp. But got a nice place to stay for tonight, and got to figure out where we're going tomorrow. All right, we're parked behind this pizza place and gelato place and the deli next to it, or not parked, we're camped back there. They let us camp back there. They get a little bit of a deal with all the hikers coming in to eat here. And I thought I'd finish my reflection before the sun starts going down. Finish my reflection on packing our anxieties. And of course, well, today I carried just 2 liters of water, and what I did is, as I went past each water source, I passed it up and made that conscious effort not to give in to my anxiety, made a decision based on what I knew I needed rather than what my anxiety was pushing me to get. And so had like 6 or 8 different spots I could have gotten water and decided not to and stay with my 2 liters. I've got a car going by here in a second. And of course, there's a direct application or an analogy to our spiritual journeys. Hebrews 12:1 famously says, "Let us cast aside everything that entangles, or everything that hinders, or the sin that so easily entangles." And the literal rendering, if you were to look in the Hebrew, it's like, "Let us cast aside every weight and the sin that so easily entangles." So anything that weighs us down, that we are to be able to travel light in this journey. And sometimes we have anxieties, like maybe it's not a need for water like on a trail, maybe it's a need for approval from others, maybe it's a need for financial security, or a need for achievement, whatever it is that you think you can't go on with in the journey without that, then that might be something like a weight that holds us back, holds us down. And oftentimes, we think we need a certain level of possessions in order to be secure in this life. We need a certain amount of whatever it might be. And I think one of the ways to kind of overcome that is to set up, kind of like I did with the water, to set up a kind of test in our lives of saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to make this phone call without rehearsing the phone call beforehand and see how that goes. Or let's say it's, I'm always trying to, I feel like I have to fix the house up so well before I can invite somebody over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally invite someone over without having fixed up the house first. Or be willing to go out and meet people without, really getting, dressed to the nines, or whatever it might be. Something that stops you from doing some of the things that you know are good in life. And set up little tests, easy little things like that, where you can face the problem, overcome the temptation to give into your anxiety, and then afterwards to have like a little celebration of victory. And for me today, that was drinking some orange Gatorade that I had mixed up. Every time I'd pass a water supply and not need to fill up and not give into my anxiety, I just drank some Gatorade and kind of celebrated. Obviously, that's kind of a silly example, I know, but I think this idea of packing our anxieties in life is really such a deep truth. And if you spend some time thinking about it, I'm sure you will begin to think, or begin to notice, some of the things that you feel like you need to have that maybe aren't so necessary. And it's time to think about it.